Hi, everyone, and welcome to a new session with Code with Sally. I'm very happy and pleased to have you all with me today, and I have a very special guest with me today. It's Taha Basri. He's a senior technical consultant and AI expert. I'm very pleased and happy and grateful for his time. He's joining us to cover Cursor, how to install it, and how to get started. For anyone who's following our series, we have been doing vibe coding and different sessions about vibe coding. We started with Claude Code, and we had Bill present how to convert requirements into a task manager app. After that, we explored together Agentforce Vibes, how to set it up and how to start as well. And we did the task manager and we explored other use cases for Agentforce Vibes. So today we want to try another vibe coding tool. We want to try and learn more about Cursor. And also we have a very great guest speaker joining us next week, talking about tips and tricks and things you need to know and consider while working with Cursor. So we'll have multiple sessions, this one and next one covering Cursor. So again, I'm very grateful for you, Taha, and we are very pleased to have you. And I'm grateful as well for you, like that you are joining tomorrow as well in the Arabic session. So that means a lot, and it's a great experience. And I hope everyone will enjoy, as I'm sure I will learn myself a lot from you today. So I would love to hand it over for you, Taha, and let's start the show and let's see how Cursor can help with vibe coding and Salesforce development.
Sure. Thanks, Ali. So let me start first with sharing my screen and let me know once you can see it.
Yeah, all good. Thank you.
Nice. Okay. So thanks, Ali, for the introduction. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So I'm Taha Basri, like Sadi explained, so I'm a senior technical consultant working at Salesforce, and I'm also an Agentforce commerce advocate. That means that I talk about commerce from time to time, and happy to speak with you today about Cursor, which is another vibe coding tool. You already saw some amazing sessions from Sally herself and Bill about Claude Code and Agentforce Vibes. And today's session is just like another version of the coding vibes or the coding vibe tools that you can use. So the agenda for today, so we're gonna talk about what is Cursor, and we're gonna really try to explain Cursor via live practice. So we will do a demo. We will go through the same requirements that Sally used in the previous session on Agentforce Vibes. So if you haven't saw that, please, after this recording or after the session, go back and see that, because it gives like an idea about how to use the requirements, how to use the planning methodology, and then acting. And we will try to do the similar approach here within Cursor. And after that, I'll be sharing some resources. You can find them on the description later on. And please just interrupt me whenever you have some questions. I'll be happy to answer that. So yeah, let's start. The first question is, what is Cursor? So Cursor, we like to say that it's a vibe coding tool. And I would say that the technical term would be that Cursor is an agentic IDE. That means an IDE, it's a tool for development, for coding, but it's agentic. Specifically, it's based on VS Code. What that means, it's a fork from VS Code. So the Cursor team branched out from the VS Code open source project, and they made their own version called Cursor. And the idea behind that is that while VS Code offers customization capability through the extensions platform, the Cursor team couldn't build some, let's say, some complex features via the extensions platform, and they had to, let's say, customize the full VS Code version and build their own, in which they included some native capabilities related to the LLMs and supporting LLMs, supporting the code suggestions, all the capabilities that we will list down there here. So the latest version is 2.0, which offers a lot of advanced features related to the agents, how do agents work in parallel. But I would like to focus in this session on the, let's say, the core features of Cursor. And we will start a bit beginner, and we will start to do more complicated tasks in order to see what can Cursor do based on the complexity of the task. So this is a list of the capabilities. Like Cursor offers a workplace to work with agents. This means that you delegate some tasks to an agent. That agent will use LLMs in order to complete those tasks. You have also tabs. So these are related to the auto suggestion. So you're typing something, a line, and then it auto completes it for you, or auto suggests what the next keywords would be. It has native interaction within the IDE, like I said, because it's a fork of VS Code. It's not an extension that you need to install. It's a separate tool that you need to install. It also has integration with CLI. That means that you can use the LLM's capabilities within the terminal also. Think of, for example, sometimes you need to play with some regular expressions commands, and instead of going to Google searching for what's the exact regular expression that I need, you can just leverage the LLM and do it within your IDE. You're gonna also see MCP servers and talk about the rules and memories, something very useful when you're dealing with a lot of, let's say, a lot of requests, a lot of reusable prompts. Same applies for custom commands. So yeah, this is for MCP server. But before that, let's switch now to Cursor and try to see how do we set up. So first thing you do is go to Google and then type Cursor. First one should be that, cursor.com. Once you land on the main page, you will see download for, depending on your operating system, either for Windows or for Mac. Once you click on download, it will download the installer for you, and you'll just do next, 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 finish, and then you'll have Cursor installed as an IDE. Then you can go to your operating system and just type Cursor. Open it, and a couple of seconds, and it will show up. Yeah, simple as that. So we download Cursor, and then we need to set it up. So if it's the first time that you install Cursor, you'll be prompted here. You'll see a pop-up that asks you, do you want to import your existing VS Code settings, or do you want to start fresh? And that's related, that's based on your previous setup. So let's say I already work with VS Code. Now I want to switch to Cursor, but I already have, let's say, a fully customizable VS Code. I'm talking themes, colors, keybinds. So all that I can import it within that pop-up, and it will mimic the same look and feel as VS Code. But or I can start fresh. That's what I did here. So I just I chose a new setup, and then I'll be customizing it from scratch. Once you land here, it's similar to VS Code. You can see it like you have on the left panel your Files Explorer, and then you have the terminal at the bottom, and then you have your editor on the center. The new addition is that there is a right panel on the right side that has the AI capabilities. But it's actually VS Code behind the scenes. So if you hover here on the preferences, you can see that it says VS Code settings, because that's a fork of VS Code. We're not interested by VS Code now. We'll go to Cursor settings. So again, File, Preferences, Cursor setting, we will land here. And as you can see, I already set up my personal email here. You can start with connecting your account. Instead of manage account, you'll see connect account. You'll click on it. Cursor will ask you to either sign in with an existing credentials or set up a new account. Once you do that, you'll get like a free account that you can use with Cursor. And I highlight free because now we will be talking pricing. So you can start with free. You will have a couple of LLMs to play with, mainly like GPT 4.1. And if you want to use more models, then you need to pay for Cursor. And I think it starts with $20 per month or something like that. But you can always do a trial. So you can just try it for 7 days, see if it works for you, and you go from there. So summary, so download Cursor, set up the account, and that's it. So from here, we can start using Cursor. What I can do first is open my project. So I went to my project. It's called Code with Sally Cursor, and I opened it here, same as VS Code. So it has a Salesforce project that has an empty folders here. Well, not everything is empty, but I have an LWC that I can work on. I'll delete this one, not needed. And yeah, we'll start now demonstrating the capabilities.
Taha, quick question. So if we
Yes.
are starting fresh and we don't have the project from when we used to work on VS Code, is it easy to set up a brand new project and to connect it to our org, or it's
Yeah.
multiple steps?
Sure. So it's the same as VS Code. Like even if I don't have a existing project, what I can do is I go to the extensions and I just install Salesforce extensions. So here, because I already imported mine from VS Code, they are already installed. But the one thing you need to do in order to make Cursor aware of your, let's say, of your Salesforce orgs is to install this extension pack. So you just need to install Salesforce extension pack. It comes with everything Salesforce related from the Aura components, the LWC support, etc. So that will give you awareness of Salesforce projects. And in addition, you need to install the SF CLI. So you go to Google, search for Salesforce CLI. First link, you open it. I'll be sharing all these resources later on. But this is the CLI for Salesforce. This is what lets you interact with your orgs, with your Scratch orgs, deploy, retrieve components. So think of this as the backbone. It will work behind the scenes. But in order to connect this with the Cursor, you need this Salesforce extension pack. So again, three things. You need Cursor, you need this extension, and you need this Salesforce CLI. The installation for this CLI is simple. You just download it and you follow the installation wizard. Nothing crazy. Once done, in order to see that you have everything set up, you just do Control P or Command P on Mac. You do greater sign, and then you type sfdx. So these are the sfdx commands that you will need. For example, if I want to create a new project, all I want to do is sfdx, then create project. I will click on it. Then it will ask me the usual questions. Do I need a standard project template, meaning it has all the necessary configuration, or do I want to start from an empty project? I choose standard, then I name the project, and I choose a directory where I put my project. Once I hit create project, it will throw this output here. So it will create a project for me, and then I'll need now to connect this project to an existing org or a new org that I have. So in order to do that, here you will see, instead of this email, you will see in this section, it will say no default org. So this is a button that you need to click on it. Once you click on it, it will ask you to authorize an org. So what we have now is we have let's say a project, the structure for the metadata, but we want to link this project with an existing org. So I will click on authorize an org, and then the type, is it a sandbox? Is it a custom one? I'm gonna choose production, and I will call it Code with Sally. I'll just give it an alias to quickly identify it within my Cursor setup. It will throw a command behind the scenes, and it should show the browser now in order for me to authenticate using my org credentials. It's still loading, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes the SF command is taking too long.
So it's
Let's hope
more or
it shows up.
less the same behavior and same setup of using Visual Studio Code with the same steps to start with your project.
Exactly.
Right.
Like I said, because it's a fork of VS Code, everything that you do related to Salesforce, meaning the org setup, creating new project, etc., all those will be similar. Once we start with the AI stuff, then we will see new things. And here I will just put my org credentials and hit login. That's it. It says authentication successful. If I close this, I can see on the pop-up here, it says authorize an org successfully run. So now I have a project, a Salesforce project, and I have the org connected with Cursor. And now I can start doing some development. So let's start with, like I said in the beginning, small things, and we will start complicating things bit by bit. So first thing is that I will explain this LWC. So I have a sample LWC. I will explain some features with this LWC, and then I'll move to the requirements file. So let's say I just started working on an existing project. So there is already some code there. Some of the lines are readable, some are not. Like I'm hovering and I need to change something specific. So let's say go to the bottom here and I have this get item style. First thing that may happen is that I may not understand what this method is doing in first place. I've been asked to change something, but I need to understand the foundation first. So first feature that we can use in Cursor is that we can select those lines, and you can see a pop-up here that says add to chat or quick edit. So I will click on quick edit. It will show a dialog here. It says edit selected code. So it's asking me to edit this code that I selected, but I don't want to edit now because I said that I want to understand for what's going on. So I will hit this combo box and I will choose quick question. What I want to do is just ask a question. And I would say, what is this method doing? And I can ask further question like, give me a sample input and output. And I will hit enter. So now via the LLM interaction, it says that this method returns an inline style string for an item's border color. And in order to simplify even more, it says that if you give it this sample input, you will get this sample output, something like that. So now at least I have an idea now about what's going on. And it says reason, it can go even further. It says the reason is that it's doing this and that within the code. And I can keep asking, like I can add a follow-up question. Like now, if I want to change this, how can I do it? And then I will start like chatting regarding these selected lines. So this is the first thing that you can do. You can ask some questions about some particular lines. The second thing I can do is that let me close this JS file and go to the CSS file now. So this is a CSS file. It has a lot of, let's say, variables that already set. These are colors, and I have some styling at the bottom. What I want to do is I've been given from a designer, like let's say a color, let's say red. I think you know it, but the RGB color code for red is 25500. This is the RGB. And instead, it's a simple thing, but I just want to explain like what you can do. So if I want to put the new color red here in the hex format, this is the hex format, I need to go and convert the RGB code to hex manually and then put that value here. So those are two actions. So instead, what I can do is select this line and hit again the quick edit. And I would say, change the value to hex format of RGB 25500. That means change the value from blue to red. But I'm giving it to the LLM in another format. So that's two actions: format to hex and then change the value. And this is now an edit. This is not a question. So I'm changing something within the code. And I will hit select, and hopefully it should do that fast. Yeah. as you can see now, the color, I have a hover feature and cursor, sorry, shows that it's red. So this is the second thing I can do. So now instead of just asking, I want to do actions. I want to change something. And the third thing I can do is let's search for this primary color. Let's see where it's used. So I'm gonna do a global search within my for repo and look for where it's this primary color used. And I can see it's used in a lot of places. First is this CSS file, then the HTML file. It's here within the style property, and it's also used within the GS file dynamically. So I'm doing some dynamic styling. And I've been asked, let's say there is a requirement to rename this primary color to something else. So now I can't rely just on the edit functionality because it's going to be specific to this file only. But I want to do a lot of changes and multiple files. So now, instead of just replacing here, now I will use the agent mode. And this is the right panel on the right side. So now I will go to the agent here, and you can see there is a combo box where you can select the options. We will go through each one of them later on, but we already leveraged the ask when we asked about specific line. Now I want to choose agent. And I will say replace or rename primary color with, I don't know, Sally primary color in all LWC files. So now instead of just focusing on the current file that I'm looking at the editor level, I'm leveraging the agent capability. So I'm delegating this task. The agent will go through multiple files, look for any occurrence of that property and change it. We can say that replacing this keyword is simple, just go here and do it, but you can think if the complexity of the task is more than just replacing, like replacing and then check if that color is well configured or something like that, then the agent mode is very useful here. So let's analyze the output. It says that it renamed primary color to Sally primary code and all LWC files, and it shows all the updated files. So it even lists the occurrences that were replaced, like 4 in the CSS, 1 in HTML, and 1 in GS. And here you can see the edits. So if I click on one of the files, I can see the red line is the previous one and the green one is the new one. And I can go line by line, either undo a change or accept the change. Or I can just accept all changes, clicking on the keep all. Any questions so far?
So far it's good. There was a question just asking the free version, is there a quantity of token and we can get more every 24 hours, or what's the free version offers?
Yeah, so at least for the free version, what I know is that here, like for example, if you go to the Asian mode and you try to ask it, it's related to the model. So I was gonna explain the models here, but it's limited to 2 modes. Either the auto mode, I will explain this later on, or use GPT-4, GPT-4.1 model. So it's a limitation within the models, and there is also limitations within the request that you can do. I don't have the specific numbers, but I don't think they reset based on each 24 hours. I think it's a monthly limitation.
Thank you.
And for models, this is also the awesome thing about Cursor is that you have like a very long list of models that you can leverage. When I say model, it's an LLM that you leverage for your specific task. Think of it as you need a specific task. You have a specific LLM that's fine-tuned and trained for that specific task. For example, it's well known that Claude Sonnet 4.5 is really good for coding tasks. And the reasoning version of it, you can see there is an icon here with a brain. That means that this is the thinking version. And the thinking version is just the same model, but it reasons behind the scenes. It does a plan and it says, okay, so the user asked me to do this and that. What are the actions that I need to do? And it starts thinking and elaborating on a plan before starting to execute. But without the reasoning option, it just starts doing what it's trained to do. It doesn't reason. So if it's trained to do something and that something is within its context, it's going to do it perfectly. If it's not trained to do it, it will provide you with suggestions, but it may not be correct. Some models are fine-tuned for small tasks, like replacing some files, quick translations, etc. And some models are really adequate to more complicated tasks. I'm talking here like GPT 5.1. For example, GPT 5 mini, from the name, it sounds like it's a mini model. So you may use it for small things, like you just want some quick translations, you want to replace some values here and there. It's good for that, and it's cheap. It has cheap requests. So you should also think about the usage of the model, like if you need it or not for a specific action, and how much does it cost. And that's where the auto mode comes. So if you enable the auto mode, it's like it says here that it's balanced quality and speed, but what it does behind the scenes is before so once you send your request, it will analyze the request. If that request is easy enough, it will choose a small model that can do the job. If it's complicated a bit, it will choose a much higher tool, like an automatic gearbox. But I would suggest first, like if you're really into this, do not start with the model. Like play with the models a bit and see why this model didn't do the job like requested before switching to auto mode. The same analogy applies to learn to drive. Don't learn to drive with automatic gearbox. Yeah. Any questions so far?
We are good in the
we've
chat.
seen the ask feature. Yeah. Okay. So we've seen the ask feature, the edit feature, and then the agent feature. So now we will try to apply all these within our requirements use case. So let me close this. I will start a new chat. So from here, there is a plus icon that you can click on it. It will open a new chat. You can keep them in parallel. Like this one is new, but then another tab where you can reach back here, because you can do multiple jobs at the same time. So it's not like one chat, you either close it or not. So I will close this one. And now that we talked about models, I'll be using the Composer 1 model. So this is, so before version 2, before Cursor's version 2, all models were external models, like OpenAI model, Cloud Sonnet model, etc. This is the Cursor's team agentic model. And it's really fine-tuned on coding. It's really fast. Sometimes you can't even follow up with it, sorry, because there is still open question if it's in him or a her. But yeah, let's go through our requirements. So I think I have them here. Yes. So I will open the preview. Okay, open the log. Let me close this one. And yeah, so these are the requirements that we want to build. They are the same like in the previous session with the Agentforce vibes. The goal is to build a task manager. Let's say that we're working on a user story. You may find this similar to a user story description. So we want to build a task manager, which is an LWC, a custom one, in order to show a simpler, more efficient page where you can manage your tasks, okay? This task manager should be hosted on a Salesforce homepage. And once you have it, you will see your open tasks, the tasks that are to be done tomorrow, the next week, etc. And you have options to either defer those tasks to tomorrow or the next week, or just complete them, mark them as complete. So what we want should be on LWC, like I said, it should be on the home page. It should display open tasks. We already talked about the list. We are giving it some definitions like what is an open task, what are the fields that we are interested with, the grouping rules. Think of it like the developer already asked some questions like, what does it mean an open task technically in Salesforce? And then you just give it an answer. An open task is just a task that has field status not equal to completed. So we are giving as much information to the agent in order to simplify the execution. Yeah, here we have the backend requirement. This is the Apex code. So we want a class that's going to be the Apex controllers. It's called Task Manager Apex Controller. It has a couple of methods like get task, which will list all tasks, one to close a specific task, the other one to defer a certain task. And a quick overview of how the logic will apply. And then we have requirements for the UI side. For the LWC component, we want to create this LWC, it's called Task Manager. For each row, display those fields. And here are the two buttons that are lightning button icons that will execute either the defer logic on the Apex or complete the logic on the Apex also. We want to use the native LWC based components, and we want to prefer the SLDS Lightning Design System. And if there is no task, we want to show a friendly message that there is no tasks available. Apex script requirement. This is a script that will help us generate some dummy data. So we have a couple of requirements here. And by the end, we have the phases. We want to structure this development work by phases. So phase one, we want to do just a prototyping. We want to build a UI, but that UI is not linked to real data. It's just using mocked data. Phase two is going to be build the backbone Apex logic behind the scenes. So it's going to be a class where it will implement the logic that we explained on the earlier sections. Phase three, we want to create tests in order to make sure that that Apex controller is working as expected. And then phase four, we want to live test the prep. So now we want to create the real task records within Salesforce. And phase five is linking the backend logic with the UI logic, meaning linking the task manager Apex controller with our LWC and have the LWC show real data and interacts with real data. And a couple of acceptance criteria at the end, like using assert class methods in the test and how the grouping should work. So these are our requirements, and we will delegate those, the building of this LWC to the agents. But we will do our human touch. So let's, instead of copy and paste this to the chat, I will just reference this file in the chat, okay? So here on the chat, let's go first to the Salesforce in order to show where we will put this. So this is the org that we will be using for the demo. I have an app called Code with Sally. It has a homepage. That homepage just has two links. One links to the accounts list. The second is to the tasks. And if we go to the tasks page, just to make sure that we don't have tasks now. So if I go to, let's say, open tasks. Well, we do have some. So let me clear those. Any questions about the requirement? It's a task manager that we will be putting on the home page, but we will be building it with cursor this time. Let's refresh.
And Taha, while you're doing this, do you find yourself getting better results when you think with the mindset of a developer and you give more detailed prompt to cursor? Like, in other words, I always say to people, it's not a replacement for development and development knowledge. And the quality of prompt and description you will give to the AI tool, you'll get a better and closer result to what you were expecting. So do you agree with that, or do you find it different? And just brief, like while you're doing this.
Of course, I totally agree. And I also think that it's a tool similar to any tool that we already used like before AI era. So we will see how am I tweaking some things and how am I configuring some things. And I think by tweaking things and customizing it to your daily workflow, you will get the most of it. Because if you're just using it in a generic way, you may not find it as useful. But once you start fine-tuning it and you start understanding, okay, so if I use this specific LLM for this specific task, using these capabilities, leveraging these shortcuts, okay, I may get a boost in productivity. And I can confirm that you do get a boost of productivity, but it really depends on how you fine-tune your daily workflow.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's put these words to the test. Let's start with the requirements. So what I'll do is I will here in the chat, I will choose agent. I will choose my composer one as my model, and I will say let's implement the requirements described, and here I can tag or I can reference files within my code repo. So I will do tag, the @ symbol, and I will have a list of the files that I can reference. I can click on files and folders, or I can choose even something from the terminal or something from the browser. We already have a tool that's supporting like a native browser within Cursor, so you can reference whatever file you may find it useful. And I will just start typing requirements.md. So I want to implement the requirements within this file, and I will put a quick tip here. Now we're talking about fine-tuning the workflow. I will say, don't proceed to the next phase until requested. Why? I don't want it to go through all the phases that I already shared here. If we go back to the phases, these 5 phases, I want to be able to control after each phase if the output is what I want. Instead of reviewing everything at phase 5, I want to review after each phase. That's the human touch I'm talking about. And let's start. Let's pray that it works first and then see how it goes. So it says starting phase 1, exploring the code base, makes sense, needs now to analyze the current code base, and from there it will start building the LWC with mock data. Again, remember, phase 1 is just prototyping. We want to have a UI. And it starts showing you the code blocks that it's building. Like I said, it's really fast. And it already built something. Now it's trying to fix if there are any linting issues. It says verifying the component structure and fixing a potential template issue. And at each phase, you can just click on this. It's too fast that you can click. And you can go to the exact line where it's doing the updates. See, it's like overriding the file every couple of seconds. So it says that I found 4 errors. So it's fixing itself. Reading lengths, again, found 2 errors. Yeah, done. Let's see the output. So it says phase 1 complete, created files. So the files, because it's LWC, I would expect about 4 files, the metadata file, and then the GS file, the HTML, and the CSS. And these are the features that were implemented. In order to confirm this, I need to go file by file and analyze, see, okay, so I see task groups. I see a couple of methods, load mock tasks. I can see that it's trying to mock the data. It's adding them to an array. It's formatting the dates, display date, handling the differ, handle the complete. This will do nothing for now because it's just mock data. And yeah, so far so good. You can see that it put API version to 60. That's just because it's trained to do that. So it's trained to, by default, if it's a Salesforce component, is put in 60. So the first tweak that we will want to do is give the agent some rules in order to fine-tune the output to our liking. Okay. So the first feature to touch would be go here to the preferences, go to the cursor settings. And here there is a section called rules, memories, and commands. And rules are whatever rules or changes you would ask the agent to apply each time. Like at each request, you identified that the agent is put in 60 as the API version. And you don't want to type that each time on the chat. So you will put it as a rule, and the agent will use that implicitly without you each time like requesting that. Okay. How do you do that? You have two options. Either you use user rules or project rules. If you use user rules, it will be put within your cursor user configuration. It will apply for all your projects. If you use it on the project rule, it will be project specific. So if I go to a different project rather than this code with Sally cursor, I will need a new rule specific for that user. So let's do project rules. And I will name mine Sally rules. Like Sally already shared with me some rules that I want to put. And I will say always use API version 60. And at the top, it says, do you want to always apply this rule? Like no matter the file, no matter the request, or you want to apply it intelligently? That means that the agent will decide based on the relevance of your request compared to the description of this rule. Like if the request has something to do with CSS and styling, and your rule has some prompts related to styling, it will intelligently say, okay, this rule may be useful for this particular request. Apply to specific files, you can just specifically put some patterns, and it will try to match the patterns. So if you say, apply this rule to anything that has a pattern .css by the end, it will apply those to all the CSS files. Or apply manually whenever you mention that rule file within your chat box, then it will mention that. I will just use always apply. I will save. It puts it under this structure. Yes.
Do you want to choose a higher version if you want to see the change?
Yeah, sorry, I want to say 65.
Yes.
So always use API version 65, and this rule file should be under rules within the .cursor folder. So if you use the cursor settings, automatically it will be put there. Now, instead of asking something different or follow-up request, I can leverage the checkpoint feature. So after each request, you have a checkpoint. It's like a rollback. It's like an undo button. So you want to undo this last request. So I will click here. And it says, do you want to discard all the changes? I would say yes. And why? Because I want to do the same request again, but now with the rule already in mind. So I will not mention any rule whatsoever. I will just re-execute the request. And you can see here, yeah. I think it's here. Yes. So within the context icon, this is the context icon. It shows how much token are now within the context. Think of context as the memory, like now the agent understands what you're talking about when you says task or where you say task manager, LWC. It's a brain that's getting expanded the more you talk with it within your chat session. And here it says active rules, Sally rules. So that means that this rule now is applied to this session. And hopefully when it gets to the metadata file, we can see that it now put version 65. That's it. So apply the same mechanism to other things. Like for example, you're working on a customer specific project and you want all the components that you're working on to be prefixed by the customer prefix, something like ABC. So instead of type in that each time on the chat session, you would just put it on the rules file and you say, always prefix the components that you are creating by ABC, and it will do that. Okay, let's speed things up. Now we need to deploy this component. So before accepting those changes, it's a good thing to try to deploy. And if something is not working as expected, before accepting the component, yeah, see, so here it says unexpected character. I think that's within the HTML. I can say unexpected character and attribute. I can just say I can't deploy the component because of unexpected character and attribute issue. It will understand that there is an issue, can deploy, it will try to analyze again the HTML and see if it can fix it. Super fast, like you can't even read what it's doing, but let's hope that it works. The issue is here. This syntax is not acceptable within LWC, within the LWC, specifically the HTML. So it will try to fix that. Checking remaining errors. Yeah, now it understands that template don't allow method calls. So we'll try to update now the GS file to have a more correct syntax. Yeah, let's try to deploy it now. Okay, successfully deployed. Before accepting, I will still go to the home page. First thing I want to check is that it's exposed. Yes, so it's exposed. That means that I can find it on the Lightning page builder. So I just trying to put the LWC here in the home page. So opening the Lightning app builder, scrolling to the bottom, now I can see my custom components. I will drag it and put it here. I will save. And I will go back and refresh. Interestingly, I already did this a couple of tries ago, and using the composer one, I keep getting the same UI. This is an issue you faced, Sally, before, when you saw multiple iterations give you multiple various UIs. At least
using Agentforce vibes, no, like because I tried the
Yes.
same requirement multiple times offline in the Arabic and English session, and each time we got different UI.
Exactly. Well, yeah. I think it's specific to the LLM, but I'm not sure. Okay, so sounds good. Now, what we will do is hit the keep all, and I will say proceed to next phase. This is the utility of context. Like the context understand now that we are within phase one, and when I say next phase, the next phase is number two. So think of it as a brain. It remembers where are we, what are we talking about, etc. And it has a limit of tokens. Tokens are keywords, and each LLM has a different context window. When you hover on a model, it says, like, for example, this one has 272K context. So it's a much bigger than the composer one. Okay, so now we are on phase two. Phase two is creating the Apex controller. It did that quickly. Let's try to deploy it. So we have the class. We'll say proceed to phase three. I think it's the testing. And now on phase three, because it will create a lot of test methods, what it did is it created this to-do list, which has all the unit tests. And after each method, it will check that to-do. It will say, okay, now we're done with this method. Now we're going to the second one. The tests are done. Now let me deploy the class again and the test class. And hopefully it deploys.
And
Okay.
do you find it usually
Now
using the assert class out of the box, or you have to add rules for that?
I would say most of the time I need to add rules
Okay.
because it's trained on a lot of old data that it has the old class.
Okay.
Now I would say, now I want to run the test. So I would say, how do I run? Or instead, I would say, execute the tests to ensure everything is correct. Will prompt me with the command. If it's not SF command, if it's SFDX, you can also put that within the rule, say use SF command. So we'll just read it. So it will try to run the test, specifies the test, and the result format will be human readable and the code coverage. And now either I will put an allow list if I want to automatically run this the next time, meaning that I will say if it's an SF command, just run it, which is something I won't recommend. Bill also doesn't recommend that. It's always good to read what it's gonna do and manually run it. Yeah, so it will run the command within its internal terminal. And like you said, there is a warning. It will try to answer any explicit request. Trying to correct the, I think there is an issue with commands. It will try to correct it. Let's see if it goes well. On test, yeah. Okay. We need to explicitly request if the test was run successfully. It's not needed. It's just like one iteration it does that. The second one it doesn't. Here you can see the results. So failed, and automatically it will understand what's failing and start fixing the issues. And I just like make sure that I run the SF command once it's done. Here it says that it was trying to access owner ID, but owner ID wasn't within the SOQL query, and that's why it fails. So what it did is just added that on the query. Other issues. Let's give it one last try. If it still has errors, we'll just move to the next phase. At least the pass rate is 89%. That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
we
think
know
what
all
we
developers
didn't do is the yeah,
doesn't like writing classes. So even if it
of
does
course.
80% for us and there is some failures, we are in a better position than starting from scratch.
Yeah, and it's really impressive that what I did is I forgot to deploy that class after I did the change. So that was the issue. And it suggested here to deploy it, and then it deployed. Now it's all fixed. This is good. Like writing this manually would took me like, let's say an hour, and an hour gain, it's very good. So yeah, keep all. Let's move on, proceed to the next phase. Yeah, so next phase now, again, it's breaking it down to a to-dos, and it's doing one by one and then checking the box. Phase 4 is the linking the back end with the front end. No, sorry, it's generating the script for real data. So let's try to deploy that. Or let me do, let's execute this script. And that's it. So it's an SF Apex run, and it specifies the file. And this file should, I should have read in it first thing. So it's looking for existing tasks, and it's deleting them based on the owner ID, and then trying to create new ones on a list. And at the end, I should expect an insert, which is this one. Should this one? Yeah, it says now that it created a couple of tasks. Let's double check that. So I have this query. I will refresh, and yeah, we have 18. Fine. So I will keep all the changes and say proceed to next phase. And you can see how the context is getting bigger. So now we are at 41%. That means that we have more tokens within the context. That means that it's better understanding our requirement, but there is a limit that you need to keep mind. So now it's gonna update the JavaScript to link to the Apex, and hopefully we should get something on the UI. While it does that, I want to show you another trick, which is if I go to cursor settings and I go to project commands. So we talked about rules, which are fine-tuning the prompts, but commands, think of them as reusable prompts. Let's say that each time you do some changes within your Salesforce development workflow, you are dealing with a couple of files. And those files are, you may need to create a Delta package, a Delta manifest file that you will need to deploy or validate against. So you're finding yourself doing this after each user story. So what you can do is create a command. Let's name it generate Delta package. And within it, you can put your reusable prompt. Like I can say, generate a manifest file package, let's say named Delta package, which includes all the files that you changed within this chat session. So this is a reusable prompt. And here, let me deploy the LWC after all the phases are now complete. And on the chat, while it does that, I can hit the slash and I can see this command here available. Once I click on it and I put enter, it will reuse that prompt and it will now do the generation of the manifest file that includes all the files that we mentioned within our chat session. So a good use case is that now we build these requirements, we want to deploy them on the next org. I want a simple command to do this for me. And it created the package. Let me find it. Yeah, this one. As you can see, here are my Apex classes, and this is my LWC. As easy as that, instead of doing it manually. And I'm leveraging the context, so it's remembering all the files that we talked about. So let's refresh this. Hopefully we have an LWC that's working. Review, let's mark this as complete. Cool. Let's defer this to tomorrow. I think the defer is not working. That's fine. But at least the complete is working. And we can fine tune this later. So we talked about commands. We talked about the agent mode. Last thing I want to show you is the MCP server. I know I don't have time, but just bear with me for a couple of minutes. I will try to just simplify what an MCP is useful for.
And Taha, like, feel
Yes.
free if you want to go a bit over, and if anyone needs to drop, they can watch the remaining on
Sure.
YouTube, so you don't have to rush as well.
Okay, fine, thanks. So for MCP, let's explain things with our MCP in order to understand what it's used for. I'll just try to simplify here. So let's go back to our use case. And let's say that I want to know, I want to get the task records from the chat. I'll be explaining myself here. So let's say I want to know how many task records are within my org. I want send this request, because even if I send it, the agent won't understand how to do that, because the task record, you need to do a SOQL query. So if I want to do this manually, how would I do that? I will go to my org, connect to it. I will go to the developer console. I will put the query here, get the numbers, and understand individually that I have 18 records. If I want to automate things a bit, I will, for example, build an API in my org that will return a JSON file that has those 18 tasks. And I will ask the chat or the agent to query the payload from that endpoint and return those tasks to me. It's much better than just doing it manually, me, myself. But the thing is that you build something specific or custom for that org, for that task, for that specific task object. If I had a tool that for example, can connect to my org and can fetch the tasks and put them as a JSON within the LLM, and then the LLM will just read the JSON and give them back to me, it would be even awesome. That's what the MCP server is used for. Before MCP, if you want to help the LLM with some data coming from external applications, you need to build APIs specific for those tools, okay? So each tool will have a specific authentication, will have a specific endpoint, and will have a specific JSON payload that will return, if it's a REST endpoint, for example. But after MCP, and MCP is Model Context Protocol, which is a standard that was built by Anthropic team in order to help standardize the communication between LLMs and other services. What they introduced is that instead of talking directly to the LLM, let's build a protocol, a one contract, a one unified contract that the services will leverage. So if I am a GitHub service provider, I already have GitHub as a service, I will build an API that talks with the MCP protocol. And that's it. It's one build. It's one API that I build just for MCP. But then think of the LLM as like an MCP client. Think of Cursor, Agentforce Vibes, other tools. They will all, instead of each one of them talk to the GitHub via API call, they will all talk with the same MCP standard. So it's one communication between the MCP and the LLM, and one between the MCP and GitHub. What this will give us is a universal communication between all these services and the LLM. They like to call it the USB-C for LLM. So it's one port that works for everything. So again, instead of a lot of unique APIs that's hardly coupled with LLM and the services, now I want only one facade, I can call it facade, and all my LLMs will leverage that. So in our Salesforce use case, we have an MCP server built by Salesforce. If I go to Google again and type Salesforce MCP server, there is one that's called the MCP support. Sorry, that's not the one. The third one. So Salesforce already built an MCP server that you can add to Cursor or any other MCP client. When I say MCP client, it just means a tool that leverages LLM. And you can add it to your Cursor. And once you need something Salesforce specific, like talking to an org, deploying something to an org, instead of manually doing the actions or telling the LLM, here is how to do it, you just leverage this capability and delegate it to the MCP server. The MCP server will take care of telling the LLM how to do that. That's it. So let's install the MCP server, because I want to know how many tasks I have in my authenticated org. So this is the link to the MCP server of Salesforce. I will go back to Cursor. Let me close everything here. I will go to Files, go to Preferences, and then Cursor Settings. And here there is a section called Tools and MCP. By default, you will have this browser automation. This is an MCP built by Cursor that leverages the capabilities of talking with a browser. But in our case, we will add a custom one. So I will click on custom MCP and I will open this here. I will go back to the documentation. Here in this section, it says install and configure the DX MCP server. I will choose, I think, the second one because it has the example for cursor. Let me look for cursor. Yes, this one. I will just copy and paste this here. Let's read this. So it's an npx package that has an attribute y when it accepts the installation. And there is an attribute called orgs. And here you should put your default org. So I will just put the alias. See here, code with Sally. I will just type it the same. So code with Sally. That means I want to link this MCP with code with Sally by default. If I close this, go back, you can see the MCP was being added and it's loading the tools. So it's loading all the capabilities that are offered by that server. Think of them as the ability to get your current org or the ability to push things to your org. So all those tools now are enabled and you can see them here. Now, let's open a new chat and I will just ask it a simple question. I want to know how many tasks records are within my org. So now, see, now the LLM understands that this capability will require an MCP server delegation. It says, or it's asked me, do you want to use this get username in order to do this request? I will say run. Behind the scenes, it will talk with my default org and it will fetch the data in a specific format and it will read that format. It says now there are 18 task records in your org.
And
Let me
we have a
double check.
question. We
Yes.
saw in the configuration use the alias for the org for Code with Sally. So there is a question, can we configure MCP server for more than one org?
Yeah. So this is just a default org. Like for when you are not specifying an org here within your chat, it's gonna talk with code with Sally alias. But here, because the thing is that my request was mentioning within my org. So by default, I'm talking about the current org that I'm using. If you specify, for example, deploy this component to Taha's org, it's gonna list the orgs that you have, and it's gonna look for an org that's called Taha, and it's got deploy things to that org. So this is just a default when you are not mentioning any specific org.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the number is correct, sure, anytime, because we do have 18 records. So last thing I promise I wanted to show you is the regular expression thing. Remember when we said that this is the crazy stuff that always happens. So you want to list all the files that, let's say, ends with a specific keyword. So I don't want to go to Google and look for it and try it again and again. What I can do is click on the terminal and type Control K or Command K on Mac and say, generate the command that lists all the files that ends with underscore test.cls. Hit enter. It's gonna leverage the LLM. It understands that I'm on a PowerShell terminal, not a Git bash or not a Linux specific. So it's really aware of the type of the terminal, and it's saying, okay, this is your command. And it says file not found. Yeah, makes sense. I think because I don't have something that's
Maybe you don't have the
respecting this.
underscore?
Yeah, probably. So if I do something like that, yeah, same. Well, that's fine. At least you get the idea. Task manager classes. No, we do have. I think it's something with defined, but yeah. And you can add a follow-up question. Like you say, okay, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. Let's try it. Yeah, I think this should work. Well, you get the idea. Things do not work always on a demo time.
Yes, expected.
Yeah, we do have it now. Okay, that's it. So that's cursor. Let me know if you have any additional questions. Happy to answer.
There was a question earlier, like we saw the agent from the chat, and there was a plan as well, I believe.
Yeah,
So the question was like, what's the difference between the agent and plan, and when do you recommend using one over the other?
sure.
And ask as well.
So yeah. So if you hover on them, you can see the difference. So when you hover on agent, it says plan, search, build, anything. So think of agent as a delegation of task, whatever type of task. So you want to plan something, search for something, or change something within your code repo, the agent mode, it's gonna help you with that. But if you want to specifically like create a detailed plan, like you don't want to start executing first, you just want to plan things and you want the help of the LLM to help you plan things. Think of it as before this requirement file, if I can find it, before this requirement file, I just had this. So instead of just taking this and giving it to the agent mode and start building and iterating and me and the agent collaborating in order to build things, I can take this goal, put it here, and choose plan mode and start. What it's gonna do is try to first like give me questions about the specificities of the requirement, like what is its task, where do you want to put it, etc., etc. Like any missing gap here within my requirement because it's too vague. And after each answer, it's fine tuning a plan, and it's giving me by the end something like this. So it will say that, okay, here is what you will need to do. You need to build on phase one a backbone, a UI mockup. Then you will need to do an Apex controller and then a testing and then linking, etc. And then at the end, you can say, okay, proceed. And what it will do is automatically go phase by phase without interruption and implementing all the phases within your plan. So think of the plan as an like a really controlled way of doing things. And agent is that it's a delegation of task, no matter the complexity of the task.
Okay. And the ask, is it just asking generic questions and we are not
Yeah,
expecting any action to be implemented?
no change, just asking questions about your code base.
Okay. Yeah. I don't see other questions in the chat. So I think we are good. And I want to say really thank you so much. We had so much to learn from you today, and I believe anyone who is interested to explore Cursor, they know now how they can install it, how they can start, and where to go to learn. And I will be sharing the resources, the recording, and everything after the session. So if anyone has further questions after the session, please reach out to Taha or reach out to me, and I will get you the proper answer. And we will be all learning together. I hope everyone enjoyed and you had something new to learn. And if you are following Cloud Code and the journey we did with Agentforce Vibes, you see there is a lot of similarities. So our target is to give you different variety of tools, and it's really up to you. What's your preference? Which tool you prefer? Which pricing model versus free versus which model to use? So try to experiment and play with each tool and decide which one you feel more comfortable to work with. And just heads up, next session as well, we have a great speaker. He will follow up with Cursor and he will give us more tips and tricks and things we have to do or useful tips to follow when we are working with Cursor. So if you enjoyed the session today with Cursor, I urge you to come back next session because it's a continuation for Cursor. And hopefully it was great. And thank you so much for anyone who's listening offline or attending with us live. It was a great pleasure to have you all. And Taha, again, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today and for this great information and great session. And I will be seeing you tomorrow again for the Arabic session. And I'm sure as well in the future we'll see you more in Kudus Ali, even for the English.